That's right, we're back and it's prediction time yet again, and it's National League South for the 23-24 season. If you're new around here, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss out on further videos. The National League South just gets stronger and stronger every year, and this year is no different. Go West is the cry, such as the amount of sides to the western side of the country, which will free up a lot of those long trips down there for those guys. But it is immaculately strong this season, National League South. Probably the strongest we've ever had it, with a fair few full-time outfits in there, arguably. I'll be previewing every single club at this level, from 1 to 24. And putting them in a final position that I think is potentially where they will be this year. I'm still undecided on 2 or 3, such as this level, and obviously there's a few more loans that will probably come about. But from the transfers that we've seen so far and the clubs of where they're set, this is where I feel your club will finish in the National League South this season. Competing in their first ever National League South season, what a journey the Millers have been on. Just 6 seasons ago, the club finished 14th in the Bostik North Division. Fast forward 5 seasons, including 2 unfinished seasons due to COVID, Aveley entered the National League South on back of back-to-back promotions. Parkside will welcome the likes of Torquay and Yeovil to town this season. Danny Scopes will be hoping and will needed to be ensured that he had some experience at this level to ensure that they actually stick around. Some aspects of the club have in the shape of Jonathan North, who ultimately majority of players from last season will also play this level for the first time. So he's delved into the transfer market to actually bring some of that knowledge of the National League South. And what he's got for the experience of Nana Kie, Matt Rush, Alex Hernandez and Harry Ladovica, plus that of young Tommy Davis from Southend, who had spells at Welling and Hampton at this level, shows a strong group for the first time in the fight ahead. Harry Ladovica, especially for me, a bit of a coup, as he had some very decent performances of Chelmsford last season. And a standout signing, probably former Hemel star Charlie Hughes, a goal-scoring player at this level, will surely be an asset for Aveley. Goals is what Aveley will want from the likes of Ladovica, Hughes and Rush and co, as forward-wise with the loss of top scorer George Sykes seems to be a bit of a worry on the face of things. Although they do have, staying with them, Kenny Aliru and Agan Rinde capable of scoring goals as well. A tough season for Aveley ahead. 21st place is where I've got the Millers. You would imagine last season of 11th would have disappointed Gill and Bath City, but certainly wouldn't have helped matters last year with that concerning injury that occurred to Alex Fletcher. With top marksman Cody Cook in and out the side, the forward line was Scott Wilson's to relish, and he did with 18 goals to complement the 13 from Cook. It's always been a part of the play, Bath City, their striking power. The power of these two will always make Bath a threat, even with the unknown return date yet of Alex Fletcher to complement as well. For me, Bath never looked that side. I personally tipped to finish high last season. And with 4 straight defeats at the back end of March and the start of April, it killed any playoff hope off as well. But Gill was kept together, majority of the squad from last season, with not too many ins or outs so far. Last season they got a keeper called Wright on loan, and this season they've done the same in the shape of Oliver Wright from Southampton. They will hope he will have the same impact from the South Coast club as Jack Bycroft did at near Taunton. For me, I've got Bath to finish around the same place as last year, mainly down to fancying a few other sides, such as the strength of the league. However, they have some very decent players like Jack Batten, Jordan Dyer, Tom Smith, and as well as some new boys, Ben Morgan and midfielder Luke Roos. They're still a side that I still think lack a little bit to be compared to the others. And for Bath City next season, I've got 15th place. Playoff pain for Braintree Town last season, but you have to say Harrop's men certainly defied the odds last season. Even I could admit I had Braintree to struggle. And will the Iron go again? Can they threaten a return to the National League after a 4-year absence? Well, they need to do it without some key players from last year's push. Reynolds, Farrell, Matthews, Pavey have all moved on. And also top performer at the back, Barris Alton Top, moving to Dartford. It's a big ask to outperform last season, but they certainly have gone after goal threats. And in those, Will Davies, plenty of times on the score sheet last season at Leiston, 29 in 42 for him. He's joined by another former teammate there, George Quantrell. There are a trio in from AFC Sudbury, experienced ex-Ipswich and Cambridge man Reddy Lamb, Joe Grimwood, and Nnamdi Nwachukwu. The centre forward Nwachukwu managed 101 in 100 games for Coggeshall Town, moved to 23 and 37 at Marlow, and another step up again to AFC Sudbury, got the free scoring strike of 49 goals in just 44 games. Can Nwachukwu make another step up? With a former Colchester Academy player arrives at the age of 28, but if pre-season is anything to go by, he's already broken Braintree's scoring record for pre-season, so that definitely is a big promise for Angela Harrop. They've kept some bodies, but even with some prolific strikers in the squad, I don't see Braintree achieving the same, if only just a respectable position. For me, I've got Braintree in 13th place. A very strong season by Chelmsford last season, and every season they seem to be so defensively sound. Only Ebbsfleet conceded less than the Clarets last season, much to the quality of veteran Dave Winfield and Oluwu. The latter have since departed for a level higher, and the experience of Liam Trotter and Simeon Jackson would have been invaluable for Robbie Simpson. Even with Jackson still around the club, Simpson would have liked him still in that dressing room to add that little bit of guidance. But with that guidance step forward, Anthony Wordsworth, and that midfield for Chelmsford next season certainly looks very exciting. Familiar face Charlie Ruff returns from a short spell at Havant, sandwiched between his Chelmsford career. Mo Dabre arrives from League 2 Swindon Town. Last season's big performing player Samir Carruthers switches Princes Park for the Melbourne Stadium. Such a big pickup for the club. And also bringing in experience as well with exciting winger Adam Mills. Enjoyed 2 years at Leiston following a move from Needham Market. Mills scored 10 goals last season and adds some flair to that already mouth-watering midfield. Bringing the curtain down on the middle of the park additions is holding midfielder Eze Ebuzweme. A signing from Billericay adds some strength and bravery into that attacking side. Certainly losing Oluwu will hurt, but they still have regulars Winfield, Brooks, Barnum Bob, Cameron James from last season. Young Luke Jenkins arrives from Wimbledon, a defender who scored in League 2 last season, picked up some experience with loans at Hampton, Weymouth and Tonbridge in the last couple of years. An addition in goal probably will be due to come. Few keepers have been linked to a loan, and any loan that comes in will want to have the same form as Ejahere did at the start of last year. Absolutely superb. Expect big things from the Clarets. 3rd place is where I've got them next season. Chippenham provided a 13th finish on the back of a playoff finish last season, which for me was expected, much to the overachievement in 21-22 campaign, when Gary Horgan deserves a lot of credit in the job he's done at that club since taking over the hot seat, even ensuring Chippenham had their best ever FA Cup run last season, eventually losing to Burton Albion in the round 2 proper. Lost 2 midfield options this summer in Muhu and Roos, and have brought in 3 players over from the National League North in the shape of Amadi Holloway and Luke Haynes, have brought in from Hereford, and Tom Owen Evans swapping Kidderminster for Chippenham. Evans used again as a last name of Jake, who arrives from relegated Hungerford, to try and plug the gap that's left from the 2 stars they had from last season. Tariq Johnson, probably the biggest name signing from Woking. I do have slight worries for the Bluebirds next season. I feel a lot have got more stronger, whereas not sure Horgan's men have. They still have the fight and the bite that Horgan will obviously get out of the Chippenham side, and you wouldn't be out of character to defy the odds. However, for me, Chippenham near the bottom next season, I've got them currently at 23rd place. Huge turnaround of players in probably a season-defining one for manager Alan Dowson. Heartbreak after finishing second to lose at home to St Albans in the semi-final of the playoffs last season. He will want to take that one step further, and this season will only be tougher for any part-time side. Finishing second this season will be an absolute unbelievable achievement, such as the power of some of the full-timers that are coming into this league. The task will be played out without club talisman Tom Bonner, the former captain and leader, and Dartford legend has retired, leaving behind a huge void in central defence as well as leadership. A few teammates have departed also, notably Connor Essam, Dazinski and Samir Carruthers. Trying to fill them will be a big ask for Dowson, and trying to achieve another top place finish. Dowson has added a host of good, decent signings, however. A hat-trick of signings from Havant and Waterlooville brings in Paul Rooney, Joyce Nembard and Miller Rodney. Braintree player of the season, Barris Altentop, is a top pickup, and they've picked up young left-back Joe Rabbits on loan from Dorking Wanderers. Bradbury turns his loan permanent, as well as other signings. There seems to be a good level of youth coming through as well. Sam Oduwado performed very well last year, and there's a fair few young players that got some minutes as well. Looking out for players like George Whitefield and co can push on this year. Expect Dartford to be again well placed, potentially not as high as second, but I do feel like they're still in the running to be near the top. And I've got Dartford next year in 6th place. Much of Dover's summer will be that of a frustrating one for Mitch Sprundle. Keeping hold of Miles Judd, player who was just a shining light in a bit of a damp season for Dover last season. Had him originally tied down to a new contract, or so it seemed, before eventually losing him to Hemel Hempstead. The squad is still pretty thin, especially in the back line, and a goalkeeper will certainly help their cause. But they've brought in Kiani from Slough, someone I always thought had some potential. With him and Dembele, will that attack score plenty of goals? Very unsure right this second. Supporting him with youngsters like George Nikaj, I see it being a long season for Dover. Signing of Anifawase from Oxford looks an interesting one, but I've got to say, you've got to fear for the Crabble outfit next season. And I've got them to finish currently at 24th, bottom of the table. The biggest project in changeover this summer has been down at Priory Lane, where Eastbourne Borough have gone from semi-pro to professional. A huge step for Eastbourne, and while this will ensure they stay in the hunt for promotion for years to come, it certainly doesn't work overnight. Danny Blore was an energetic boss at Eastbourne and got the club pushing up the table. With him gone and new surroundings in every aspect for the sports, it's almost like a brand new start. Simon Leslie, owner of Travel Media Company Inc., took control of the club and instantly got in new gaffer Mark Beard. The former youth coach at Brighton and head coach at Dorking has had a full-on summer, recruiting a new squad which has meant some key bodies from last year, for reasons of committing to full-time or just cutting ties, have departed the clubs. The likes of Greg Lure, Dickinson, Innocent, Morgan and Whelpdale all move on as Eastbourne Borough fans chant for some new legends to come through. Beard has certainly got some big signings in the door. Keeper Ben Zazinski comes in, Dan Quick from Crystal Palace, he would have known from his time at Dorking. Jack Paxman and Alex Finney arrived from title winners Ebbsfleet. And Sports have recruited young, but the best business for me is keeping hold of last season's top performers, Leon Gravata and Player of the Year Shiloh Remy. Top players, and really looking forward to seeing them push on this season. As we mentioned, the young players, youngsters Alfie Bridgman and Freddie Carter will be looking to make an impact, dropping from their Football League youth sides. Billy Viger's signings is interesting as well, arriving from Arsenal on loan. We'll be hoping his technique and flair can get himself some valuable headlines. I feel Eastbourne for a transitional season might not reach the heights expected as of yet. But anyway, exciting times ahead down there at Eastbourne. But for next season, I currently have them at 10th place. 12th place last season was an incredible first year in the National League South, only winning 2 of their first 10 matches. It took Farnborough a little while for Spencer Day to input what he wanted from his squad. But an unbelievable run after this of 13 games unbeaten meant they were rarely in trouble last year. A good cut run too, beating League 2 Sutton United along the way, means hats off to 22-23 at Cherrywood Road. You can't deny the calibre of talent Day has brought in this year either, to certainly be able to push on from last season. Mason Bloomfield was a blow to lose, but they've replaced with Alfie Pavey being free scoring in pre-season so far. And the signings of Taylor Maloney is a real coup for me. His injury in pre-season, the extent of that is currently unknown, which is certainly not ideal. But bearing no long-term issues, it's an absolutely fantastic deal to be put through at Farnborough. Maloney was superb for Welling last season, double figures for goals and assists. Michael Follevi, Sid Nelson, Ryan Upward, they put some gloss as well on the departure of top performer Kevin Loco. Currently talented Saeed is not known on returning yet. You'd feel probably wouldn't be, but nevertheless I see Borough being a real threat to teams next season. One of, for me, the top keepers in the league, Jack Turner, as well, is still at the club, back from his horrendous incident on his summer holidays. But I feel Farnborough can kick on next year and be one of those dark horses that will just sneak through into it. And for me, I've got Farnborough in 7th place. Mel Gwinnett acted quickly this summer to get his targets in and will need and want a club of Hampton to massively improve on last season's 17th place finish. Firepower is something that Beavers will not have to worry about this season. Mason Bloomfield grabbed 11 in his short spell at Farnborough last year, and Rob Hall will surely be a top player this season at this level. Moving from Barnet, he has experience from Bolton, Oxford and West Ham in his locker. He surely won't be on the cheap, but it's a step in the right direction for a club having a new badge identity this season. And more firepower as well in the shape of Ben Seymour. Plenty of goals at Plymouth Parkway. He'll be hoping to continue that next year. Still with favourites Dean Inman, Whittingham and Curran Brown. Hampton will be a lot more intriguing to watch this season, I'm pretty sure, and trying to get back into those playoff places. Last achieved in the 17-18 season. They do start the season with 7 away games while work continues on their groundwork, but I don't see it being a long-term issue, and I have Hampton in 9th place next year. Ebbsfleet ultimately didn't have many challenges in the end last season, but if you were looking at the table in November, you might have thought the Hawks would have really had a fight for it, unbeaten in their first 11 games and only 3 defeats in their opening 21. The Hawks dropped like a stone, winning just 1 of the last 16. Paul Doswell's rotating player door couldn't bring any joy, and Jamie Collins eventually taking the reins. He took charge of the last 11, and you look at it, and will Collins have the joys of ensuring Havant continue being one of the big boys in the league? A tag that can so easily fade at this level. But one bit of credit you can give the Hawks is some great business so far. Obviously, prolific scorer Mo Fow is still at the club, along with key players Jake McCarthy and James Roberts. Top pickups in the shape of Kai Innocent, Tom Mayhew, Devante Stanley, all key to the prospective clubs that they were at. Key players which have been a joy and part of Hawks' success in the last couple of years, albeit not physically success, but the way they play is their fullback department, and losing Joe Newton and Josh Passley moving to the step above will be a huge blow to the Hawks. Former Hawk favourite returns. Rory Deacon is a massive signing, one that still makes you believe Havant and Waterlooville will still mean business, but the jury's out whether Collins can continue that form that takes them into the playoffs again. For me, Havant and Waterlooville, 12th place. Last season I had Hemel as a team to pull up some trees. In the end they got about halfway up. One mention I made in last season's prediction video was a goal scorer is certainly what they needed. They couldn't really get one to fire regularly and ended being the 3rd lowest scorers in the league because of that. The signing of Joey Cafano will only help struggles in front of goal, a top striker in the box for this level, and a massive coup in the arrival of Miles Judd and also Alfie Matthews on the back of a great season at Braintree. Maybe I went a year too soon, maybe Hemmer will climb a little bit further up that tree this season, and I think they'll have a lot more tools this year to improve on last year's 15th finish. For me, Hemel in 11th. The first of our newly relegated sides to preview and another full-time outfit. The first thing Maidstone will want out of this season is a victory on opening day against Slough. 2023 is still yet to provide a league victory to the Stones, and George Elokobi has the pleasure of turning this ship around. Not had a positive impact so far, but the first few games this season is where it will now count for Elokobi. Lost key players since their last promotion. Players that got them out of this league before, Barnum, Deacon, Luke Bidden Williams, were so strong for that side. And while I believe they've brought in some top talent, Chai Ezanolim was a real talent for Welling last year, plus plenty of flair, including the players of Aaron Sebia and Razak Coleman de Graft. It is a big ask to be able to complete what they did last time. Levi Manchi is a real handful for defenders, and he comes in from Brackley, having started the season so well last year at Braintree. Sam Corn, Gavin Hoyt, Stone's favourites, are still here, and Elokobi has used a lot of trialists in the pre-season. If he gets to add more to this squad, on paper it's pretty talented. The biggest question mark is currently Elokobi and the backing he will get. Best to leave this as a one to watch for me, but Maidstone on paper and the way you can see that they've been playing pre-season, still in a playoff place and 5th place for me. Scott Davies took over the hot seat for the Rebels last year and he continues again this season. Staying up by 3 points last year, he'll hope for a more secure surroundings this campaign. Much of his signings have come from the levels below, but certainly players who have goals and assists are plenty from the likes of Gary Abisogan, Nathan Minhas, Mikael Platt, and Jamal Prosper is a nice pickup, a top talent at Chesham last season. Right age to make a good step up for Slough. A lot of sides for me look stronger, so I do feel home form on that 3G will be a big importance for Slough. To have all players moving up and continue their form is a huge ask, but if it comes off, you've got to give hats off to Scott Davies. But for me at the moment, Slough, one of those relegation places, and 22nd. So close to National League football last season, St Albans. They totally got stuffed in the final by Oxford City, and it's going to be a good job by David Noble to pick up after that defeat, to push them on one more time. Well, what comes with a strong season and no promotion? Well, squad surgery. Losing key players is something that is a regular prospect at this level, but certainly the losses to Tafari Moore, Joy McKenna, Devante Stanley will be so hard to replace. They've been active and still have that Jeffers threat to play with, and obviously at any level, Jeffers' goals are so key. 54 league goals in the last 2 years he's provided. Returning is Torquay left-sided player Ben Wyatt and former loanee Giorgio Raul da Silva provided some decent performances for Cheshunt last season, so it'll be interesting to see his progress. And it was a huge miss back in those playoffs. Can we see St Albans continue to challenge at the top end? Time will tell. For me, it's playoff hangover in 16th place for St Albans City. For the first time in the club's history, Taunton were absolutely superb last year in their first step at National League South level. Rob Dre has his squad well drilled, defensively sound, and not many scored less than the Peacocks. However, they were not fun to play against. Out of those 16 clean sheets, 2 of the 5 defensive units have departed, unfortunately. Bycroft's outstanding in goal was returned from his loan spell to Southampton, and centre-back Jake Wunnell couldn't turn down full-time football at Yeovil Town. Dre has kept much of the squad together, such as key players of Jay Falston, Lee Lucas and captain Nick Grimes. Along with a new keeper, in comes striker Malachi Linton from Yeovil on a season's loan. Certainly potential for goals they need. Feel like it'll be harder second time around, but with all the Western sides, a unique season with not high levels of travel that they potentially used to last year, creating a bit of a positive spin for maybe a few of those sides in the West. But for me, 18th place next season for Taunton. Mentioned again in last year's video, Jay Saunders' Angels will have had a building year before pushing on this season. Well, if they do push on, that potentially rule into the playoffs, such was last year's brilliant 8th place finish. Club legend Sonny Miles has departed, but the signing Saunders has made has been very interesting. Lyons Foster, Mead and Powell are all players showing ability at this level. And so too with Boachi, and if they can get Stephen Payne firing, what an addition that will be. Same with Gianni Critchlow, if they can rediscover some of that Braintree form, that will be an absolute signing and a half as well. They've got some real talent knocking and kicking on in pre-season. Suarez Jr. has been bang on form. Tommy Fagg and Payne all full on form as well, heading to the opener away at Worthing. I'm intrigued to see if Joe Tyree will get any involvement in the setup there. He got some brilliant experience last year playing alongside Joe Allure at Sittingbourne. And it's exciting times again, as mentioned last year at Tonbridge. With the base there for really to kick on this season. For me, next season, they're really going to have a playoff push. I've got them just finishing outside in 8th place next season. Certainly one of the favourites this season, Torquay United will be hoping to emulate the last time they were at this level, bouncing back at the first time of asking. They won the league by 10 points that year, albeit only playing 42 games, and they have to be at their best again for me to control what they did that year, but I would certainly not bet against it. Gary Johnson is such a knowledgeable manager and wasted no time in bringing in Weymouth hotshot Brad Ash. With him, the returning Lewis Collins and Aaron Jarvis, it's a frightening forward line for National League South defences. Loan signing of attacker Will Jenkins-Davis from Plymouth another exciting attacking addition as well. Probably one of the longer trips of the season up first as they visit Dover, but with an installed squad, a full-time status at Plainmoor, I see many more happier times than last season to follow. And Torquay United, I have placed in second place. Truro are no strangers to this division, although it's been 4 years since they've been here. There's been a lot of concern, and for the most part of a decade for Truro in 2011, financial issues longing for near on 2 years spelt relegation from this level. Then they returned in 2015, and Truro spent 2 of the 4 seasons finishing in a playoff place. Up front that season was Tyler Harvey, an absolute goal machine for the White Tigers. A move around the west at Plymouth and Bath, it's Truro that have given Harvey all the joys, and he'll be looking to kick on again this season. Home games this season will give Truro fans an hour plus on the road, with a club currently playing a ground share role with Plymouth Parkway. So that will remain to be seen if it becomes an issue, but certainly wasn't last year to get them promoted. Not any move at all really for Billy Palfrey and Dan Rooney, who swapped Parkway for Truro. Keeping Harvey, Andrew Rocky Neal and Player of the Year club captain Connor Riley-Lowe is huge for the club, and expect Dan Sullivan to grab a couple of rockets this season as well. For me, Truro to stay up, and I have them in 17th place. Danny Blore, in my opinion, is a top move for the Wings. He brings in experience and passion as he takes over from a project that didn't really work out for Warren Feeney last season. I thought they would have been a bit stronger last year, but, such is the way of this level. It's quite unpredictable at times. Blore, well, he brings with him some personnel he knows well from Eastbourne, both backroom and on the pitch. New skipper and leader Mitchell Dickinson is a great pickup, as well as Lee Morgan, James Vaughan and Jack Birch, who have all swapped the red of Eastbourne for Welling. One of the signings of the season for me is Lewis White. Feel confident he'll really push on again, leading from his decent performances from Worthing last year. I think that's a massive signing for the Wings. And with some good academy players getting some contracts, plenty of good players in the squad. Bellarabi, Bramble, Lisby among new signings, Crossley, Lema, says to me they'll improve on last season's 16th finish. Is there a chance of a flirt with the playoffs? Potentially. But for now, just a little bit of progress for me, and 14th place for Welling United. Weston-super-Mare enjoyed a very entertaining season, winning the Southern League South with 93 points last season. Scoring goals was no problem, with Dale Grubb, former Football League favourite Reuben Reid and Marlon Jackson certainly experience will help the Seagulls this season. And watch out for Lloyd Humphreys, a real talent for Weston-super-Mare. A couple of loans from Exeter and former West Brom striker Jamie Sewell remain the business done so far from the gaffer Scott Bartlett, with also Rex Mannings coming in from Bath City. I think this year will be a tough one for them, but there's no reason why you can't surprise a few too along the way. Only losing 5 games all season last year, but this is a different beast for Weston. For a club who amazingly, before the last slip out of the division in 2019, had never been relegated in 132 years of their history, albeit reprieved 3 times. Quite an achievement for a football club, and another achievement for next season. 19th place and staying up, Weston-super-Mare. A win on the last day of the season at Dover ensured the Terrors secure National League South football again this season. Bobby Wilkinson spearheading 4 wins in the final 5 games to bring about the great escape. They had to wait for game 12 for victory number 1 last season, so surely a better start will be achievable this year. They moved quick to bring in a flurry of signings this summer, notable Dan Roberts, Wabo Rollinson and Charlie Rowan. And some younger players make the step up the pyramid. Stagg being an interesting one, signing from Grays Athletic. Looks like he might settle to this level quite well. Legendary goal scorer Brandon Goodship returns for a 3rd spell. If he clicks, that could cover some pain of losing Brad Ash from last season. Keelan O'Connell and Tom Bearwish stay in the squad overhaul. It's hard to see if it is quantity over quality for now. Unsure personally what this year brings for Weymouth, but I don't see them personally being a lot higher than previously last year. So currently have Weymouth in at 20th place for next season. 4th place, second highest goal scorers in the league. Not a bad job from Adam Hinselwood and co for a first ever campaign in the National League South. You've got to feel good right now if you're a rebel, and even with the departure of top keeper Harrison Mayo and Lewis White, replacing them will be difficult for quality, but with Rocco Rees returning permanently from Brentford and quality additions in the shape of Joan Luque, Nicky Wheeler, Michael Klass, they look strong to go again. The leadership of Racine and emerging talent Joe Rye, they really are stacked with quality, and if Ollie Pearce replicates his 24 goals again, and he would say he wouldn't, Worthing can have another enjoyable season for me. I hope to see Jake Robinson appear again soon too, been out since his debut on the opening day last season after scoring, naturally, but a huge season I think again for Worthing, and I think they'll challenge right near the top. 4th again for Worthing. The Hellier Group took control of Yeovil to ensure hopefully a lot more brighter future for Yeovil Town fans. While we mentioned Torquay strike force for Yeovil, having the likes of Jake Hyde, Frank Newble and Reece Murphy to call upon is absolutely mouthwatering for this level. And Yeovil, who were playing championship football as soon as 2014, no doubt, 9 years later and 4 relegations later, the Glovers need to once more rebuild. Mark Cooper has knowledge, holding 11 managerial roles, and the talents of the squad means you can only see Yeovil going well. Some local young players join the squad in shape of Jake Wannell from Taunton, Josh Hours and Will Boos make permanent switches from Bristol City. They do still hold the likes of Jordan Young, fantastic previously at this level with Chippenham. There as well is Morgan Williams, Alex Fisher, Cooper, Josh Staunton actually quoting that he won't be involved on 3G pitches this season, which will rule him out of a few away games. I don't see Yeovil struggling to keep up with the pace, even though every club will be out to stop Yeovil and Torquay this season. For me, and the last team I'm reviewing, are my champions, Yeovil Town. So there we are, that's how I feel the National League South will look this season. You can have a look in the comments below and let me know who you think will be top of the table come May, and who do you think will go well, and who do you think potentially will go down as well. There's not long till kick-off now. Thank you again for watching. Let's see how this season goes, and hopefully see you at a few grounds this season. One thing's for sure, the National League South is the strongest it's ever been.